Alright everybody, and welcome to another video. So today we're going to be looking at loops, specifically for loops, while loops, and repeat while loops. So what are loops? Pretty much loops are just control flow statements, and they're meant to perform a task multiple times. And what are the differences between each loop? A for loop is going to iterate over a sequence, like an array, a range of numbers, a dictionary, so on and so forth. A while loop is going to evaluate condition first. So if a condition is true, then the code inside the curly braces is going to repeat until the condition becomes false. And a repeat while loop performs a single pass through the loop block first before checking the condition. So the code inside the loop will always be executed at least once. So let's go ahead and get into some examples. So if this doesn't make sense, it will start to make sense. Okay, so here I am in the playground. So to use a for loop, we can definitely use it to iterate through an array. So I'm going to show you how to do that. We can do something like for numbers in numbers array. And afterwards, we can just do print. We could do number. And then using string interpolation, we can go ahead and insert that number. And then if we run this, we can see that our entire array, each element, gets printed out on the new line. And this also works with the ranges. So let's say you want to do something like for, and if you don't want to use this, you can also put an underscore in here for whatever that is. And let's say 1 through 10, we can print out some text. And if we go ahead and run this and look at the bottom, it printed it out 10 times. And since for loops are able to iterate over an array, it lets you do some pretty powerful stuff. So let's say you need to get all the even numbers from this array. So what we can do is we can make a function and just say like func print even. And then we could do for even numbers in numbers array. And if even numbers modulus 2 leaves us a remainder of 0, then we can print out the even numbers. And we just go ahead and call that function here. Then when we look at it, we can see right at the bottom here, 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. So those are all the even numbers here. So that pretty much will cover for loops. Very powerful stuff here. Now let's take a look at while loops. So as we mentioned before, while loops are loops that are going to continuously repeat while the condition that you give it is true, and it's not going to stop until it's false. So let's say you were tasked with printing hello world 6 times. So you can do like func print hello, and then do print hello, and then you can go ahead and copy and paste it 6 times. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's 6 times. And I mean, it'll work, but the problem is that violates the rule dry. If you don't know what dry is pretty much don't repeat yourself. It's not good programming to have to repeat yourself multiple times. So this is when we'll use a while loop. So what we can do is we can do var I equals 0, and then write while I is less than 6, print hello. And now it's very important before we run this that there's a bit missing here. So it's going to keep running this. We already set that I equals 0. So it's going to say, okay, 0 is less than 6. So that's true. So let's run this. But I is going to stay at 0. It's never going to increase. So that means that this while loop is going to run forever. So what we need to do is do I plus equals 1. That way it's going to run it. It's going to say, okay, it's 0. 0 is less than 6. That's true. So let's print out hello. Now let's increase I by 1. So now I is 1. Is 1 less than 6? It is. So print it again, so on and so forth. And eventually I is going to be 6. And when that happens, it's going to say, is I less than 6? Well, no, I isn't less than 6. It's equal to 6. So then this becomes false, and none of this will execute anymore. So if we hit run, we can see here that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's pretty much how while loop works. Remember, you do have to give it a condition to show that, in order for it to break out and make the condition false. Otherwise, you're going to get an infinite loop and it's just going to keep repeating forever. But also, there's a way if you wanted to break out of a while loop early, and we'll do that using the break keyword. So right here, currently this while loop is going to print out hello 6 times. But let's say we only wanted it to print out 4 times. What we can do is we can say, if I is equal to 4, then break. And just like that, when we run this, we can see that hello only gets printed out 4 times. And the reason is because it's going to keep incrementing by 1. So it's going to start off at 0, then 1, then 2. But it's going to always check this condition. So it's going to say I equals 0. I is less than 6, so we can run this. But it's also going to come down here and say, is I equal to 4? Well, no, it's 0. So once it reaches 4, it'll say, okay, 4 is equal to 4 now. So we can break out of this while loop. So that's just an early way to exit out of a while loop if you want to do so. This is a super simple example, but it's definitely going to be useful when you're working in larger, more complex projects. So now the last one to look at is going to be a repeat while loop. Okay, so here we have a repeat while loop. And the way it differs is that a repeat while loop, you're guaranteed that the code that's within the curly braces is going to be executed at least 1 time. So to do a repeat while loop, we'll do repeat, and then we'll type in some code. So let's say we're going to print out, this is a repeat while loop. And then afterwards you do while, and then set the condition. So while false. So this, under normal circumstances, shouldn't even run a single time. But because we're using a repeat while loop, this is going to execute at least once. So if we go ahead and run this, and we look down here, so this is a repeat while loop. So that's the advantage, is that it's going to run at least 1 time. So another example we can do is, let's say we'll do var number set to 0, and do repeat. So we'll do print, and then we'll print out that number, and we'll increment that number by 1 time. And we'll do while number, and this is where we'll do a condition, while number is less than or equal to 10. And then if we run this, we can see here that we have 0 all the way down through 10. And even if we were to change this to, let's say, 0 and less than, well, 0 is now less than 0. 0 is equal to 0. But because we're using a repeat while loop, this is still going to run at least 1 time. So we go ahead and run this. We see down here that this ran 1 time, because that's a repeat while loop. You're guaranteed to get at least this code in here executed at least once. Okay, so that pretty much does it for today's video. Just to recap, for loops are used when you want to iterate over a sequence, such as an array, a dictionary, or through a range. While loops are extremely useful when you only want the loop to execute under a certain condition. And repeat while loops are useful as well if you need the block of code to execute at least a single time. So that'll do it for today's video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you have any recommendations or for future videos, or you have any questions, please leave a comment down below and subscribe for future videos.